Congresswoman of New York. Nicole Malliotakis joins us now. Congresswoman, thank you so much for being with us. Something that struck me about this convention is that from Sean O'Brien, a union boss, to the rapper Amber Rose, to even J.D. Vance himself being talking about working class people and the effort to dismantle corporations and that sort of thing, is that the Republican Party is seeking to not only expand its base, but also to redefine itself. Do you get that impression?
Well, I think that we're attracting everyday Americans, people who may not have voted for Republicans in the past. You had quite a few speak that voted for Biden in the past, but they see how destructive the Democrats' policies have been for the country, from the open borders that have created mass migration in cities like mine in New York, where literally 2 cops were shot by an illegal immigrant, a 13-year-old girl was raped by an illegal immigrant, and so many other crimes being committed as a result of this open border policy, to the economic issues. They can't afford to put food on their table. Gas is now about $1.25 more today than it was when President Trump was in office. It is because of the anti-energy policies of this administration that are fueling inflation, as well as the highest interest rates in 2 decades. Young Americans, can't afford to live the American dream, purchase a home for their families. And I think it's just gotten to a point where Americans are saying, hey, we're not better off than we were when President Trump was in office. Or perhaps they believed a lot of what his opposition were claiming about him, the vile rhetoric, the lies that tried to destroy President Trump professionally, personally, and economically. So I think there is a shift happening in this country. I think people are seeing that this administration has taken us too far to the left, and there's a correction that's to be made.
What are you anticipating from the president's speech? We understand that he's rewritten it following Saturday's attempted assassination.
Well, I think it's going to be a unifying speech. I think that President Trump is not just unifying Republicans, as was evident this week, but he is getting that cross-party appeal. You mentioned a couple of these individuals that spoke, but to have a Teamsters president speak and say that he's the man that's been creating jobs for our members, that he's the one that can bring economic prosperity back to this country, having a Nicaraguan immigrant who said she voted for President Biden but will no longer do so. She is now with President Trump. Having African Americans speaking in support of President Trump. I think that he is uniting America, and really the division has gotten to a point, obviously, where it is dangerous for everybody. We need to find a way in this country to unite, to debate policy based on merit, whether it's going to be on the House floor, whether it's going to be in the media, or whether it's going to be at the ballot box. But I think it's responsible for all political candidates, all elected officials, to tone down the rhetoric, to speak with unity. And I think that you'll hear that from President Trump today. I think you're going to see the gentler side of President Trump, the human side that we heard his granddaughter talk about yesterday. This is a family man. He is a job creator. He loves his employees. He loves the people around him, his fellow New Yorkers, regardless of race and religion. So I think that's who you're going to see tonight.
I think you were in the friends and family box last night. Did you get a chance to speak with the former president?
Yeah, I spoke to him briefly, and look, I just told him I'm happy that he's with us today. That thank God he is okay, and it was just a brief exchange, obviously, because we were watching the speeches. And I think one of the most incredible moments was the Gold Star family standing on this stage in tears, talking about their loved ones who were killed. Because I listened to those hearings when we had these individuals come speak before us. There were 2 opportunities to stop the ISIS-K fighter that set off that bomb. One was when they closed Bagram Air Base and all those prisoners were released from jail. That released this individual onto the street. And then the second time was when a sniper saw him, and this was testimony that came before Congress. Sniper saw him, and they didn't take him out. They couldn't get the permission to take him out. So those 13 lives, that was preventable, and that is a failure of leadership. That is why we need President Trump back. We had peace through strength. We had somebody who would do more to keep our military men and women safe abroad. We have somebody who had our borders secure, was not letting in these dangerous people that are wreaking havoc in cities like mine. And again, he made it very clear. He supports immigration. His wife's an immigrant. But it has to be legal and it has to be right. And people commit crimes, they need to be deported. And so I think that there is a stark contrast between President Biden and President Trump. And I think Americans are saying, gee, President Trump is making more sense here. And he's going to be better for me financially, for the economy, for jobs, for secure borders, for a safe nation, and peace through strength, not appeasement of our adversaries.
I do want to ask you about that because there is some disagreement even within the Republican Party about the approach to foreign policy. And I think that's encapsulated by Senator J.D. Vance and his comments about Ukraine, saying that he doesn't really care about what happens in Ukraine. Also, for the first time, I know you're on the Taiwan caucus, for the first time, Taiwan wasn't even mentioned in the Republican Party platform since 1980. How do you see foreign policy being a part of the Republican platform moving forward when there are these disagreements on Ukraine and there's still sort of a transactional view of the security assurances that the U.S. has made to partners around the world?
Yeah, I think when people look at President Trump, they're saying this is somebody who brought peace through strength, right? We did not have these invasions when he was in office. And he is somebody, I think, who can prevent this. And remember, this is a deal maker. He has the ability, I think, and he's a strong presence. So I think he was preventative in what happened, and it wasn't until Joe Biden came in and showed weakness on the world stage with some of his policies, rubber stamping the Nord Stream 2 pipeline while killing our own, lifting some of the sanctions on Iran and allowing them to prosper once again. These are decisions that I think were wrong decisions. Re-entering the Paris Accord without requiring China and India to play on a level playing field. These were bad decisions for America. They helped our adversaries, and I think that that's the difference here. So I think there is maybe, there is a place where we need to get together and figure out how we're going to proceed on foreign policy. But one thing we know for sure is that President Trump is the courageous and fearless leader that we need, and I think that he really brought respect on the world stage. And look, the bottom line here is, and people ask me all the time, well, how do you know that this wouldn't happen? Well, because it didn't happen. That's the best evidence you have, is that it didn't happen for 4 years. And here we were on the brink of, what seemed to be World War III for quite some time. And it's gotten a little bit, I think, under control. And we're seeing China now step back from potentially invading Taiwan. But the threats are still there. And we need to, again, project peace through strength in this country. And I think President Trump is the one to do it.